everybody. At this time, I'm going to call our February 24th policy meeting to order. Sorry, we're a little late. We had a meeting prior to this that ran over. It's your fault, Evan. At this time, I know everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. Is everybody good with that? All right, so we're going to move forward and have no public comment. So I will turn it over to Ms. Graham to get us started on discussing our policy.
Thank you. All right, we are going to start with policy EA, support services goals and priority objectives. This is a policy that had not been updated since 2002, so we are reviewing that today. You'll see that there are a good number of proposed changes, but overall, the changes are not substantial to the intent of the policy itself. Happy to answer any questions.
Sorry. I always knew it's gosh, let's see. I think I downloaded it.
Sorry, maybe I'll just do start.
Yeah.
For everybody.
No, you're fine. So I don't know if you want to go over it or just ask
Want me to
it.
go section by
You
section?
guys need to go section by section or? Okay.
I'm good on this one. I don't think you need to.
I am good on this.
There's other ones we might.
I do want to add, just because ultimately, like support services, goals, priorities, objectives, I wanted to add something in the administration under the direction of the board must design, guide, and evaluate. Because ultimately with Title 59, a lot of these things are under the authority of the board. So I want to ensure we're capturing that they do have oversight ability and it's under the direction. Like we're delegating it to.
Sure. So I think that the reason that this specifically points to the administration is because it looks at operation of those departments, which is delegated to the administration by rules and
It is.
responsibilities. So
I think we also have for Title 59 a duty for oversight, so I want to ensure that we're capturing under the direction.
okay, do your proposal for that, you can just add it.
Add under the direction.
Okay.
I thought about adding a point at the end. I'm not necessarily stuck on it, but it was the board retains ultimate oversight over all support services that may direct the administration and may direct the administration to provide reports and assessments to the board on efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance of support services. But if anybody else feels that's needed, I will.
Can you read that again, please?
The legal authority of the board says the board retains ultimate oversight over all support services and may direct the administration to provide reports and assessments to the board on efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance of support services, and that cites 5919-90.
That's
Is anybody opposed to including that verbiage? I can provide it. That would be, yeah.
As I'm looking up.
It's just the general duties that are afforded to the board. 591990 is essentially, I actually have it all here. That's okay, but I just read it all, make sure I understand what our legal authority and obligation is.
Then would we reference it?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
general
Yeah,
powers and
she's on
duties
top
of
of it.
school board trustees is what it is.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry,
probably,
just a second, because I just want to make sure.
and you can reference it and cross-check and argue with me if you like.
Not my plan.
Well, I didn't think it was your plan, but you know. You're the legal expert, so.
Graham, are you able to see any of the markups, comments?
Oh, so you have to open it online.
So you have to go into, I do not use the online version. Ms. Bates has to open it online. I have to open it on my desktop, which you use the all markup feature
You see
under track changes.
it. You see-
The things that are added should be underlined, things that are recommended for deletion should be crossed out.
Should have both.
Yeah, it does. It's
got
got
in there.
bolder than this. Right. Yeah. The cross out is what we're removing from the first policy, the regular thread is what we're adding. New recommendations from SCASBA or district staff, correct?
So can I just ask, which specific portion of 59-1990 you're referencing in terms of?
To pull that, but
Just the general powers and duties,
That's
control over the,
parentheses 1, which is building schoolhouses. I feel like that's,
that was for the next one.
okay.
The one was for the next policy. 1990 is just the general
It
duty.
is. So I think my concern, and again, of course, this is a board policy, but in terms of overlap of the board's responsibilities versus the administration's responsibilities in terms of operation. And I don't see anything in this that specifically captures that, but
I mean,
I'm certainly
59,
happy to
19.
consider that. I just wanted to sort of raise that. There's a balance there, and we want to make sure that we're not anything conflicting with other policies and with superintendent contract in terms of administration over the operation.
I mean, ultimately, the board does have authority over operations, as well, within reason. They delegate it to the superintendent. But, I'd have to find, we can come back to it. I'd have to find the specific verbiage though.
Okay, I mean, it's certainly up to the will of the board, so if everyone wants to add that, we
What
can.
is your contract?
Well, I mean, my contract says delegate operational authority to the superintendent to apply for policies, so. And
I mean, it's just asking that the board has the authority to ask for the update
Yeah.
and ensure compliance with board policy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think what Christie's pointing out is, and I pull up your policies, but in the very first section, roles and responsibilities, it's captured in that.
Correct. I think my concern
Okay.
is really with the first proposed sentence, that
Under
the
the-
board retains ultimate oversight. Because I think that complicates the oversight, the delegation of operation to the administration.
Okay.
I don't so much have concerns about directing.
Let's
administration to
remove
provide
that.
reports,
Keep the
assessments.
first part and of the
The
first
board may
paragraph.
direct the administration to provide reports.
That's essentially what I was trying to.
To the
Okay.
board on the efficiency, okay.
Would it be administration or superintendent?
Administration or, because we're delegating it to the administration in the policy, so we're not delegating it.
So it's saying because it says may direct the administration, so I think on the whole, they could direct the general administration to provide an update on it.
It just felt like all that stuff was supposed to go through the superintendent.
It does usually.
Does not specify that we're delegating it to the administration. That's the only reason I use the word.
It doesn't say delegation, it says the administration must design, guide and evaluate.
I'm fine with saying the superintendent.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
I just,
And just keep.
yeah,
the higher
no, I was just trying to
place.
keep
And I don't have
that.
a problem with the reporting requests and stuff like that. I just want to make sure the chain.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
All right, so EA is approved with the proposed changes as well as the addition of the board may direct the superintendent to provide reports and assessments to the board on the efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance of support services.
I just want to make sure we capture that.
Next, we have EC, policies, grounds, and property management.
Right.
It's Helen's, yeah.
Can I have your copy? Okay, a little bit on.
Yes. I don't have an extra copy, so.
Nope. You're good. Oh, not you.
There's
One
one,
you already gave.
that one
The one you already gave.
Yeah.
that you, where we changed.
You already gave it. I don't need anything else.
She has it.
Okay.
She was saying, she keep it.
Oh, yes, yes. I thought you needed it. Okay.
So I'm good. All
I'm
right.
like, where did I put it then? I thought I gave it.
All right, EC, buildings, grounds, and property management. Again, this one had not been updated since 2002. So we did make some proposed changes here, and I do just want to point out, because the board requested that we provide the model policy, but the district also, based on the structure of our district, had some recommendations. So the ones that are italicized in red and underlined are recommendations of the district, not part of the model policy. Because the model policy puts a lot of the onus for building maintenance on principals. And because of the way we structure our district, most of that falls on our facilities department. So we just wanted to make sure that we identify that the principal is responsible for identifying and reporting deficiencies in their building maintenance, but that facilities is ultimately responsible for correcting those deficiencies.
Give me 1 minute. I don't remember.
This one.
Well, it's the same thing with number 3.
All right, let me just look at yours. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a tricky thing,
So it won't be how it's different for all of us. Okay. I think it was fine with all the district's recommendations. I did. Under, let's see, where is it? Wait, am I looking at the wrong? You see.
You see?
Okay, where am I then? Within. Different schools of principal, okay, where is that? On yours? Okay, within separate schools, the principal are responsible for. This is a weird word change. I don't know, it just bothered me, but could we say within individual schools? Instead of separate? schools? Where they sounded weird.
Sure.
Sorry.
And then, does anybody object to that change?
Under the first bullet point, that in regard to should be regarding. That's also just a dumb change that bothered me, sorry. Let's say, provide accurate information regarding the nature condition instead of in regard to. And then I did want to consider adding another one to capture the board's authority, which says, in order to carry out this responsibility effectively, the Board of Trustees establishes policies and guidelines that govern the management of the district facilities and property while delegating the day-to-day oversight to the superintendent and administration. And provide that to you.
Thank you. I don't, that's up to you all.
Can you read it again?
Sure. So this would be the second paragraph. Actually, it looks like you have it in between. It would be the second sentence. It would say, in order to carry out this responsibility effectively, the Board of Trustees establishes policies and guidelines that govern the management of district facilities and property while delegating the day-to-day oversight to the superintendent and administration.
So that's essentially, we provide the general oversight, but the day-to-day, obviously, is. I know it's hard to hear it and not read it. If you want to look at it, you're more than welcome.
I'm just trying to look at it in context with what we already have there, so.
Trying to go through these. I'm sorry, I should print them out for everybody next time. I normally have these like.
What, sure.
Team building exercise?
And I did also have one other recommendation and question on this.
Okay.
I'm proposing to add the, you got the board authority and superintendent.
Oh, yeah. Usually always scared.
The question, you have a hierarchy of policy that I'm agree with what you're doing here. Is this already covered in the general statement and overarching policy?
It might be, yes.
And if
There's-
it needs to be clarified specifically in anyone, great. If not, do we need?
Section B covers board responsibilities. Section C covers superintendent administrative responsibilities. It is pretty clearly defined in those policies, but it's up to the board whether you want to include those in specific policies.
Big percentage sort and
You don't like the
downstream future maintenance of these policies?
Yes.
If it's already covered in an overarching one, then
I'd have to look at that. I don't know if it captures it to the extent that I would like it to. I think this is more specific, but, I'm fine either way.
You have one that's a capture-all, it's BBAA, under board member authority, that the board will review the effectiveness of its internal operations of these once annually. The superintendent and others who work regularly with the board will be asked to participate in the review. So I mean, you still have ultimate oversight of it. And there's one for operation.
Yeah, the chart I don't think really specifies that as much, but, and you can tell me if that's redundant as well. Here's the lawyer, but I feel like it is in my opinion.
Wait, sorry, which thing are you referring to?
Yes.
This is a different
Yes.
policy.
Oh.
This one, I think we covered all of the changes, or is there something else?
No.
Okay, can I keep this one too?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is it, well, I guess
It's fine.
the
If you
board,
think it's redundant.
yes.
yeah.
whether you all would like to add that.
I object to it.
You pull up the
Not
chart.
covered. If you go for argument one, we want to.
Superintendent, it should be, it's under B. For here, board and superintendent relationship is the chart below them. If you pull up policy BDD, that's what they're saying covers it.
I mean, I think it's covered in a good number of them. The chart was just what came to mind, but when we look at, as Dr. Robbins said, the board.
No, I didn't
members'
take into
responsibility
account
is super-
that would be the overarching. I guess what I wanted to do is affirm it. But if you think that that would create a lot of redundancy in our policies, I mean, I'm not against not doing that. I just don't want there to create any confusion on.
And that's the point I want, let's not create redundancy unless there is something explicitly that needs to be enumerated. It is my point.
I mean, I guess in the chart.
I mean, I think the chart is intended to convey, and it is very vague. I think it's intended to convey the idea that the board is ultimately responsible for policymaking, budget, and then certain things that are delegated specifically by law, and everything else is delegated to the administration for day-to-day operations via their contract and board policy.
I think that verbiage captures more. What, can you read it again?
Sure. In order to carry out this responsibility effectively, the Board of Trustees establishes policies and guidelines that govern the management of district facilities and property while delegating the day-to-day oversight to the superintendent and administration.
I like it being more specified in there, but if people feel it's redundant and not necessary, then I'm okay with it. It's fine.
There's also CBC, which defines the superintendent's duties and responsibilities. Just in terms of other policies that address these. CBC.
And this is just on maintenance.
Yeah, so in that policy, there is specifically a bullet point that says that it is the superintendent's responsibility to make recommendations to the board with respect to facilities, boundaries, assignment of students to various schools. So
But ultimately, the board makes the decision.
in terms of like building projects, capital projects, et cetera, yes.
Just move forward with the verbiage unless somebody does not.
I mean, I'm not against it. I think it is,
Capture.
true, but I also think it probably is captured. Yes.
What would be your recommendation? She's gonna say, don't include it. Which is fine.
It is certainly the will of the board. I do think it's redundant, and I also think that in general, it's not included in the model policy because they felt like it's covered in other areas, but again, I mean, this is
I don't
specific
know.
to our district, so it's,
I get wonky with model policies because I feel like, especially with SCASBA, they tend to overly delegate. And so I want to be careful with overly delegating our responsibilities and not having.
Or, no, I don't think it hurts, but I don't think it changes anything. Because I think what's there.
I know, I don't think it changes anything.
But I mean, just that what's there, if it is there based on it, it doesn't change anything because it's already true with policy and we, you know what I'm saying? That's how we're operating. Sure, and again, that's why I said I don't think any of us are like against it because it is factual. Yes.
but it's just, We will move this forward with the proposed changes that are in the proposed policy as well as the changes that we discussed. You can remove that. That's fine. Okay, remove that paragraph. But the other two changes, individual rather than separate and regarding rather than in regard to.
Sorry, I was just being.
Okay. All right. Next, I do think separate schools.
I was like, that sounded weird. I was trying to like think, what does that mean? I mean, I knew what it meant, but it just sounded weird.
All right, next up is policy ECB, buildings and ground maintenance. Again, this policy had not been updated since 2002, and so we were bringing that in line with the model policy. This one does have a good number of changes if you want me to go through those individually. I do just want to point out that again, anything that is in italics is a district recommendation, not part of the model policy based on the structure of our facilities.
No, I had no issue with the district's recommendations. Did anybody else? Or the policy recommendation?
Yeah, the only two things I had here is in the paragraph that says the superintendent is responsible for the overall maintenance. I was going to suggest overall responsible for the maintenance.
Okay,
You're like me.
But if, again, if that's covered elsewhere, don't need to do it.
Could you tell me why we were removing the except in emergencies, the district will provide additional maintenance services only upon approval of the superintendent or their designee, like just what was the?
so that is a model policy change. I believe that their intent there is that the district provides ongoing additional services and maintenance, so I'm not sure why they would differentiate. I mean, obviously, if there's an emergency,
Maybe it would be like a task.
yeah, I think that, and again, I think it goes back to the way that they structure the model policies, that they tend to be more school focused, whereas we parse it out to our facilities department. So I think that their belief is perhaps that schools have a stronger budget for
Right.
maintaining their own facilities, which is not how we structure our district. That budget is all allocated to facilities department, who then comes in and does the maintenance for them. So I think that was part of why that doesn't make sense, as well as districts move to a more district-wide application of that rather than school.
At the end of the second paragraph, I did have a recommendation. It might be redundant again, but it was the superintendent is also responsible for ensuring that the district's maintenance practices meet the standards set by the board and align with district goals.
So if we were going to add that, I might recommend that we add that at the bottom recommendation. All construction improvements and renovations of district property will comply with standards and specifications set by the South Carolina Department of Education Facilities Planning. So perhaps we could just add and,
Yes, that's
and
fine.
include that, but
Okay. If you think that again, captured.
One other point. What is aggressive mean? If we could make
Is
that
it-
higher nutritional value.
A value-
yes.
A valid question.
Yeah.
Seriously, do we being proactive there? Is that?
Yeah.
where does it say aggressive?
It's the first paragraph.
Program continuous aggressive maintenance of district-owned buildings and grounds.
It's aggressive.
I want, it's not just proactive, it's aggressively proactive.
Aggressively, well, there you go.
Again, that's a model policy, so that is up to the board. If you all want to change it to proactive, I think that that would be fine as well. I know that we have to be aggressive. in anything that's-
It's funny.
Okay, so we will move forward with all of the proposed changes with the addition of changing aggressive to proactive. Changing the language in the second paragraph about overall responsibility.
You're gonna move it to the last.
Oh, wait,
Then
sorry,
there's
the
the second
overall
one.
responsibility, and then also add in the portion here in the bottom paragraph. All right, next up is policy EDE, waste management and recycling. Again, this policy had not been updated since 2002. I'm not sure why we were not concerned with section E, but we are putting a focus on that now. And so we wanted to bring this up to date with the model policy. There are very few proposed changes here, but I'm happy to discuss any one that anyone has concerns.
I had none. You have concern about waste management?
All right, next up is ARJRA-R. This is the administrative rule regarding student records. And it is recommended, proposed that we consider modifying this policy in line with recent executive orders. The proposed change is on page.
It wasn't, oh, yeah.
2, 3, 4. It's on page 6 of the policy. This is quite a long policy in regard to changes to students' education record, removing the reference that the district may change the preferred gender of a student in our power school system.
I have no issues with the changes.
Questions? Favorite changes. So with the location student records on page 1, it talks about directory information by name. In that context, I'm assuming that's the legal name certificate as opposed to the preferred name, nickname. It's the,
Under what constitutes directory information?
yes.
Tell me where you are again, I'm sorry.
First bullet, it's name, last
Uh-huh.
name, middle.
So that's referring to the cumulative record?
Because sometimes people will go by like a nickname.
Right.
But
So-
for name at the front part of that, I assume you mean their legal name,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And preferred is-
Yes, those are the only two categories that are available. Are
Yeah,
legal
like
and
my name's
preferred.
William Shane, I go by Shane.
Exactly, yeah.
And so we have that as directory information for a lot of things, but particularly like sports, academic awards, et cetera, that,
In, either that's
We
generally,
can
when you say
publish their
legal
names.
name or you need to put the word legal in front of that and any.
Oh, I hear what you're saying.
I think we certainly could add legal, I think because the only two categories are legal and preferred, since we identify preferred.
That's
It's implying legal, but certainly we could add that.
I'm more than happy to add it. Do you guys feel, do you want to add it or not add it? I'm good either way.
Clarification.
Yes, it's fine.
If I ask the question,
Okay.
the other non-lawyers who read these kind of policies might.
It's fine. I just like things clarified.
The directory information.
Which verse? Which two?
Two.
Okay, yes, where are we? Do you want it legal name again?
Schools and college students, education records, confidential, primarily for local school use. The exception is directory information. And the way I read this is that parents have to opt out of that. Otherwise, the information is publicly available.
It is, I would say not put out publicly, but it is available were someone to request it. It's used for a variety of things, but like I said, athletics, academic awards, et cetera, the fact that we can acknowledge that you are, enrolled in our district, as well as requests that we get from DSS and law enforcement, things like that, for information about students.
But my question is, the onus of the responsibility to prevent that from being shared, okay, is upon the parent or student of age within 15 days, as I read the rest of the policy.
Correct. I'm not sure about the 15 days. I think parents can, thank you. It does say 15 days. I will say that by practice, the district has accepted those at any time that the parent submits it. I think that the confusion, that is part of the registration process for parents to opt out. And so they would have to submit like a separate writing for us to keep on file if they wanted to do it outside of the registration process.
And that's the point I'm trying to get at. So the
But-
expectation is you have to opt out to have that shared, as opposed to opt in to allow it to be shared.
Correct.
Okay, and that is the SARE policy that's currently raised.
Yes, so that is also in line with FERPA, the federal student privacy records protected privacy law. Yes,
Are you making a recommendation?
Recommendation for a change? Welcome to.
I'm of the opinion that I prefer it to be, you have to opt in to do it to protect the information. And I'll tell you why. We've had a breach here in this state where children under 18's information was breached. They had no say in the matter, and now for the rest of their lives, they got to deal with that data potentially being out there. So what we do as part of our policy conveys how we feel, how strongly we feel about data protection and whatnot. I would personally, I would prefer it to be the other way.
What
That they
would-
opt in to have the directory information shared, otherwise it's not.
I don't know that, any of that would have affected the breach, because that was all confidential school information that we housed ourselves anyway. And it was a criminal breach of the records, so I don't know that it would have changed it, because the district would still have had that information in our power school system.
I'm not talking about this, please.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
talking about others that have happened.
Could we allow it to be opt-in except for in like a law enforcement scenario?
I think you've got that provision. in there
Yes,
right now
yes.
For those types of situations.
Well, those situations are addressed through directory information, so I think there's not a separate provision in terms of how we address law enforcement outside of the directory information. I will say it's guided by HIPAA. They are the ones who indicate that there should be an opt-out. Certainly, I think the district could go above and beyond and make it an opt-in. I would suggest that, that is probably something I'm going to get more feedback from administration, because I think that would be a very substantial change. And it would result in a lot of work for the schools in changing how they implement. For example, if you do a FERPA opt-out and your student is selected as, terrific kid at the elementary school, you would not be able to tell the school that. You wouldn't be able to put it in your newsletter. You wouldn't be able to send out an email, congratulations to our student, of the week, any of that. And so it would be a very substantial change in how we function. So I think that that is something that the administration, might want to give more feedback on before that changes.
And I think we would need to think about how we can relay that change to our families, because I can see it being very confusing for parents and families, especially with a change, but even just getting them to opt in might be laborious in many
I will
situations.
say from personal experience.
Those letters at the beginning of the year, I mean, I just worry that there would be many families that would not respond at all and not even understanding what they were asking. And they would not even realize that they're not opted in when things were occurring, and that could cause some confusion.
Would there be any worth in limiting this like the type of information we would provide?
So FERPA allows the district to make a decision about what constitutes directory information. I would say that we are required to advertise this annually. So if we were to make a change at this point in the school year, we would have to issue notification to all the parents. We could also bring this policy back up at the end of the school year for potential change before the start of next year.
Yeah, so you just follow.
It goes out in the parent-student handbook.
Practice, we can have.
It goes out in the parent-student handbook at the beginning of the year, and when parents register their students, they are given a link to that, and they have to confirm that they have access to it before they can continue in the registration process, and it is included in there. And it is available. I do see the 15 days. That is, I did not know that because we don't enforce it.
So we
So
just remove the 15
we
days?
could remove that portion, but we have always accepted, if a parent submits it at any time during the year, we have always accepted it and honored that.
Well, like we've in the past brought policies up to practices, maybe we should just remove that 15 days and for sure to just be in line with our practices.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm good with moving it out of committee as it is. And if so desired, bringing it back up over the summer to address.
With that provision, I'm fine.
Okay, so do we do want to remove the reference to the 15 days?
Especially if that's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have always accepted it anytime the parent submits, it, so that's fine. Yeah.
As a practical matter, when that notice goes out, I would recommend you use 15 days so that when that mass initial notice comes in, but that also allows for downstream and at some other point, it needs to be changed.
Are you saying you still want to?
I mean, I would say that practically, I don't know, I don't want to misspeak, but I think we have very few parents who opt out. It is
Yeah.
extremely rare, so. It's not really a mass, maybe now that we brought it to light, we might get more, but in
If you
general.
want to say it's
we get-
recommended you opt out
we
within
get very
15
few.
days, I don't care if we leave that. Would you rather the language be recommended to opt out within 15 days? Or would you rather just remove 15 days and just?
I think I just removed 15 days.
I'm good.
Any other concerns about that one? Okay. Okay, next. Sorry?
I can't get it to front with the red lines. Oh, man. Okay, thought you would have advice.
Sometimes I do print as a PDF and then print it. That might help.
Something like, it's moved off, you know what I mean? Just whatever you have crossed out, it should difference without it.
I don't know. It's interesting. Mine print like that.
One day we'll figure it out.
Okay, next we have policy GBAA, sexual harassment and retaliation staff. This policy is also being brought forward in response to a recent executive order. And we are recommending removing the examples of what discrimination on the basis of actually.
We're, under my, just my thought, I thought the only thing that was removed from the examples, the gender.
So I will put it out to the group. It was the recommendation ultimately that I put forward was to remove all of the examples. I will say this is an ongoing litigation, questions of authority of the executive order, all those sorts of things, and changes in Title IX. And so I think that in line with most of our policies where we have been removing examples, it might be beneficial to just remove all of the examples and say that we will comply with whatever the law is at that time in terms of that.
Okay, that's fine. I understand that reasoning. I was just confused because I was like, I'm pretty sure the other ones are.
Yes, gender identity was the only thing that is in line with that executive order, but we have been removing in general examples from a lot of the portions of our policy because we found that it's. Again, if we only want to remove gender identity, we can do that, but
I mean, I
I think
think
my recommendation is to remove all of the examples.
our overarching is we're just in compliance with the law.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's our job. We can't argue the law states, so.
That's the only recommended change to that one. That one was more recently updated in 2020, so. Okay. And then the last proposal is JIAAE1, sexual harassment and retaliation complaint form. This is actually the complaint form in the student section. Interestingly, for whatever reason, our student version of that policy did not have the examples in it. But here on the actual complaint form, it did. And so it is just a recommendation again to remove this.
Does anybody else have any concern for?
Oh, I apologize. That was not.
Oh, you had me excited.
I'm sorry. Lastly is policy IKE, promotion, retention, and acceleration of students. This one has been modified several times lately, you all might recall, but we are bringing it up again because on page 3, there is a reference to the literacy portfolio, reading portfolio under Read to Succeed, and it is my understanding that that is no longer applicable, but I will certainly defer to our CNI team on that.
It was just removed as a good health exemption option under the recent
That's
proviso.
fine.
So it's just removing that.
Do we need, we don't need to add anything with it, not add anything or
Change anything else, just removing that one.
Question change. So in grades 9 through 12, page 1, page 2, it's the second to last page. It talks about high school graduation total credits. And in the list, it says 1 additional credit of social studies. Are several of the previously enumerated items part of the social studies curriculum? Is this like an elective or something? Just a point of clarification.
Make sure. Including one credit in US history, 1/2 in economics, government.
1/2 to go.
So that's a total of how many the US history, economics, government are required, and then they have to have an additional social studies credit. Thank you, Gail, for nodding to make sure I'm right. But there are many social studies credits that will meet that requirement of the state.
So it's saying that the US history and then the economics and government class those are
Those are
the
required.
social studies.
But then
Those are
there's
the-
a flat
those are
additional,
One is required.
1 additional social studies credit
Yes,
so many.
of anything.
yes.
2, last paragraph, should a parent or guardian require the student be retained without recommendation of the principal, shall be required to pay the full amount of the state cost of the district for the additional year of education. Just as a question, how do we determine that amount?
How do we determine that amount?
Yeah.
Oh, is Mrs. Minier here? Did she know?
You know, tell us.
Unfortunately, she stepped out. Yes, she tells us how much it is. I believe, I don't want to
Is it
misspeak
the
about how to
people
determine
funding?
that amount, but she has a specific, it is
How much the basic.
there are people funding plus the local amount, I believe,
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we do have a cost.
Because I think it always seems to be determined like our. That was a thing.
Yes. if that
Megan?
was-
And just from a question standpoint, so how does prohibiting in that scenario participation in athletics contribute positively or negatively towards the student progression?
I'm sorry?
How does prohibiting participation in athletics contribute positively or negatively to student progression?
I'll answer that and you can elaborate. What we find is parents will try to pull their children back because they want them to have an advantage in a sport. And
So
so
they'll be larger.
larger. And this is to deter that.
That was what I was thinking.
Yes. I remember I had that question when we did this policy last time.
Sorry, I missed that point.
I know.
Undergoing clause exemptions. The first bullet. Classified as English learners and have less than 2 years of instruction in English program.
That's a state. Like a state.
Say aloud.
It's, yes, the exemptions are designated as part of brief.
They're not proficient in English at the appropriate grade level, that would be a detriment to future success. There's schools that are principally being done in English. So just things that make me go. Okay. Thank you.
Right, that is all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you. We have this. Sign in, me too. Okay, and do we have any public comment? All right, so may I have a second? All right, you're adjourned.